Yeah, we got the first car, one of the first lightweight cars that actually Dick Gaines drove and got hurt in Champaign, and then I started the '78 season with. So, it was sort of a special car to me.
Okay, Steve, welcome to the, I don't know how many Knoxville Nationals this is now. You've been to a lot of them. Do you come every year? Is this one of your things? One way to get you out of the house?
Yeah, well, it's one I haven't missed. I still continue coming out here. I don't go to a lot of races anymore, but this is one we always enjoy coming to.
Sure. I know you're not going to climb into a race car, but when you get here, do you still have the itch? Do you want to get back in? I know you're not, but...
Well, no, I don't have no plans of ever getting back in. You're never going to forget the feeling of driving a sprint car, So it's, I was just very fortunate to be able to do it as long as I did, I guess. That's all I can say.
Yeah. And do you go up to the suite for the races, or do you crawl around in the pit area?
Yeah, well, most generally we go to the suites, and sometimes I'll run in the pit area for a while and then back to the suites. And just here and there. It just sort of depends what I feel like doing.
You still get a lot of people that come up and want an autograph, want to share time with Steve Kinser?
Yeah, there's still a lot of race fans there. There's a lot of Steve Kinser fans. So you can't get away. You don't want to get away from them. It's good to talk to.
Yeah. So how are you filling up your days back home in Bloomington? What are you doing all day?
Oh, these days now I just I got some properties that I own. I got to take care and keep up in my own house. I've got my shop there, which we don't do a whole lot with now, but I got 20 acres right there that I live on, and I keep it all mowed and some different properties and stuff. So I stay busy.
Yeah, so you went from driving a sprint car to driving a lawnmower?
Yeah, that's it. Basically it. Pretty well it.
Okay. Aren't you restoring one of your old number 11s, one of the first sprint cars with Karl Kinser? I understand that's in a restoration process. Is that ongoing?
Yeah, we got the first car, one of the first lightweight cars that actually Dick Gaines drove and got hurt in Champaign, and then I started the '78 season with. So, it was sort of a special car to me. Then later on that year, Karl built another new car, and we went up to run a World of Outlaws race. And he said, which car do you want to run? I said, well, I guess I want to run a new one. Why? And he said, well, I'm going to put somebody else in the other car. And I said, well, who's that? And he said, well, I'm going to let your dad run it. So we was going to Kokomo and running a World of Outlaws race. And Dad led it right toward the end. I got by him about 3-4 laps to go to the end, so we ran first and second.
Wow.
And then after that, Scott and Randy Briscoe bought the car off of Karl. And Scott and Randy, when my brother ran it, and then different drivers when Briscoe had it. So I bought it back in an auction. It was selling a guy that had a museum in Bedford, had a lot of cars and passed away, and he was selling a lot of his stuff. So I went up and I didn't go up. I just bought it online.
Yeah. Is Jon Stanbrough restoring the 11 car we just talked about?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Okay. So he's an interesting character and really bright and really good at what he does.
Yeah, John's a great guy. He does a beautiful restorations also, and was a good race driver and just a very good person.
But it's kind of funny, the chassis is called the Mitchell. It was built in Mitchell, Indiana, and the guy that built it is Denny Mitchell. So
wow. What's neat though is that when you go back to that era, late 70s, early 80s, those cars raced for years. Now you race it one night and twist it a little and throw it away. Back then, these cars had a life, and a life with different drivers. You just rattled off a few, but it wasn't uncommon to see a car go an entire decade or even more.
Yeah, and actually on the history of this car, so Steve, actually before Steve drove it, Steve told me that Dick Gaines may have drove it, his dad drove it, and Bob
Kinser, yeah.
And then Steve got in it, and he actually wrecked it somewhere, I think he said at Kokomo, and kind of messed the cage up. So it does have a new cage on it. and he was kind of on the fence about whether we were going to go back to that style cage or leave the one that was on it. And I kind of tried to persuade him to keep the cage that's on it, because to me, being a race fan and a young guy and looking up to Steve Kinser, this is the car that I remember him driving. And I told him, I said, I think a majority of the fans, if not all the fans, will remember this car the way it is when he drove it. But like I said, I'm pretty sure Dick Gaines drove it. I know his dad Bob drove it, and then Steve drove it.
Just those three alone.
Yeah.
Steve Kinser, Bob Kinser, and Dick Gaines drove this car. That makes it a unique piece in itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, and back then, of course, they ran a World of Outlaws shows. They weren't all with wings overhead. I mean,
Right.
they ran non-wing races.
They ran whatever the local rule track was. So whatever their rules were is what they ran by.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so
So if you went to Pennsylvania, you might be wearing a wing. But if you came here to Indiana, you might just take the wing off, because that's how they did it at Bloomington or Paragon or
right.
wherever, you know,
Right.
Tri-State,
Right.
Hobstadt.
Yeah.
I think about that, how cool that would be today if they had to race with and without.
That would be cool.
I think so. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that steering wheel so upright like that back in the day?
Yeah, so there's some things that have been changed over the years on it,
Sure.
and I will put it all back the way it was, but the
I gotcha.
steering is in a little bit of a different location than what it was originally. And there's been a few repairs on the chassis, which those will all be fixed and straightened out. And
Was this car ever clipped?
I don't see anywhere that it has been, but it has had some repairs here on the shocks. And it's had a, you know, like we were talking about earlier, the steering gear's been moved. And then I can see, like I told you also, when Steve first drove it, it had a different cage, so I can see where the cage has been added. You know, it's had a couple little welds here on the shock towers, and you know, a few little brackets on each side. But like I said, we'll clean all of that up. And it's one of the few cars that it's got a tapered rear axle in it, and it's one of the few that has a tapered aluminum axle. Majority of them were all steel. So even back then, you know, they were still a little bit, especially Karl, I guess, and Steve were on a little, you know, little bit of a weight kick. So like I said, they had the aluminum rear axle, and the axle and spindles that are in the car right now are titanium. That's pretty unheard of.
Will they stay?
We've talked about it. The titanium spindles will stay for sure. And Steve, I think, maybe wants to run the car, not hard, but he would like to drive it. So we may put a steel axle in it, because there was a few of those titanium axles that were made. And actually, Bubby Jones was driving a Mitchell car, and it was at one of the Holman races at Terre Haute. He was leading the race, and the axle broke. So we'll probably take that out and put a steel axle in it. Well, this axle was built in '78.
Okay.
So that's why I said it's kind of unheard of, and these guys were even kind of on that lightweight kick even back then. So, and I know that Steve said that they, even though they were running the steel block, they went in there and cleaned a lot of the weight off the block, and you know, you can see where they've drilled arms and tried to make the car as light as possible. And with being able to talk to Steve and a little bit to Karl, and then all of the photos that we have, we should be able to get it really accurate.
Well, this would have been one of the first chassis that Steve Kinser and Karl Kinser more or less hooked up on a full-time basis. This is when they really took off, about 78-ish. I think they were together maybe a little bit before that, but as a full-time unit, Karl and Steve, it really started here with this car.
Yeah. And there's actually, we have a photo of Steve in this car the very first time he ever drove it, which I believe was at Paragon.
Yeah.
And so it's a really good photo of it. And that was also before this cage was put on it.
How long will this restoration process be? I mean, this is a year project. What is it?
Yeah, I told him it could be 6 months to a year because if we don't have all the pieces, we'll have to, research it and see if we can find all the correct parts. So far, I've gathered up quite a few pieces that are correct for the car, so maybe it'll go a little bit quicker. But I always tell everybody, usually on a restoration, at least a year, especially if we have to gather parts and do any fabrication or repair work to it, which this, like I said, is going to need a little bit of repair work to it. But usually what I try to do is gather all the pieces and parts, put the car all together the way it is right now, get all the pieces and parts fit correctly, and then we disassemble it and do any repair work that needs to be repaired, and then we'll get it blasted and start doing the painting and powder coating and reassembling the car. And one thing, and Steve has stressed it to me, and I see it in all the photos, those cars that he ran back in the day, they weren't all polished and pretty, so we'll polish the wheels, and the rest of the car will just be raw finished aluminum and a little bit of paint on the frame and the body and some lettering, so it'll be a pretty basic car.
Yeah. That's the funny thing to me about restoration, and people like yourself and others who restore old race cars, they bring them back to perfection. Everything is polished and so beautiful, when in fact, if you go back to the era, they never looked that way. They were chipped and beat up. They went fast, but they weren't necessarily as pretty as they are coming out of restoration,
Right.
But hey, what about this tail tank? Did that come with the car? Was that on the car?
That is the original tank.
That's the original tank?
That is.
That's awesome. And that was with the car. Jeez. Is that the hood that goes on number 11?
Yeah, that's the original style hood.
But it's not the original hood.
It is not. The original hood was gone. It had a newer hood on the car when we picked it up. So
But that's exactly what it looked like.
that is the exact original style hood. It has to be trimmed and fitted, but
It's always interesting to me. Those cars back then, they raced for years, sometimes decades. Now, you might drive a sprint car once and throw it away because it got a bent.
Back then we didn't have a whole lot of stuff, so we had to we had to shove them back over and sometimes and fix them and just repair them. Stop at people's shop and get some help and repair them and going down the road.
Would you have had the success you had without Karl Kinser?
Well, I don't think so. No. I mean, it was pretty obvious. Karl had success. Everybody drove, and he was probably one of, if not one of the best crew chiefs in Meyer. You know what I mean? It had to be probably between him or Davy Brown, I would say. They was right in there together.
Sure. Well, what is sprint car racing doing a good job at today? What are they doing right?
Well, sprint car racing is just it's just an exciting sport. For me, it is. It's the most exciting car you could drive, I think. The sport's strong. They're still doing good, and got a couple different series, and even a lot of the local tracks are putting good races on. So it's still strong.
Are you watching it back home? I mean,
yeah,
are you tuned into flow racing and all that?
I don't go to it live a lot, but it's still on everywhere.
You don't even get out to Bloomington Speedway?
Yeah, I actually did go to Bloomington right before I came here. I went and watched a non-wing race. They had their speed week going on there, so me and some friends snuck up there and watched the races up there.
Yeah, is Kyle Larson the greatest driver in America right now?
Well, he seems to be. I don't see anybody challenging on it right now.
Have you ever had a conversation with him?
Yeah, I met him many times, like at the Gold Cup when I was in California when he was a young kid just getting started. And I've talked to him and stuff, but it's been pretty limited, you know what I mean? But it's been fun to watch, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's in great equipment, but what has he got that maybe someone else doesn't?
Well, I mean, it's him and Rico sort of grew up together. They had a nice little racetrack that Rico did at his place there at the wineries and stuff, and they had two guys grew up together racing against each other, just playing out in the backyard. They had a little bitty short dirt track there, so a lot of that's a pretty good advantage when you're growing up with a kid.
Yeah,
and both of them show their talent too.
Yeah, and before I forget, are you and Sammy Swindell friends today? Because it seems like back then
Yeah,
you
we're
got
not-
on each other's nerves.
Yeah, well, I mean, we was competitors, but
Yeah.
we're not enemies by no means. So
Okay.
we both got respect for each other. We have to have.
Okay, and finally getting to it here, you got a book coming out right now, pretty soon. What's
Yeah,
the
it's going to be
latest?
out. We was going to try to get it out while I was out here, but the publishers couldn't get to it. We do have pretty well have it all finished, and it's been a good time. Dave's been fun to work with, and if it wasn't for him, I would have probably never had brought a book out. And he's been after me for a lot of years to do it, and we come out here well, it was a couple of years ago, and he sort of got me tied down finally.
You're hard to tie down. I can
Yeah,
tell you, 'cause
occasionally I try to sneak away.
I worked on trying to interview. I know we sat down a year ago, or whatever, a couple of years ago. It took me 2 years to get there, so I think Ken Schrader helped me on that. He finally.
I once I quit, I tried to quit everything. I guess.
I hear you. Well, I tell you what, you look good. And how do you feel overall?
I feel fine. I still
Yeah.
have a little problems with my neck once in a while, but it's not been too bad. I went in there and got the nerves burned. I don't know how long it'll take them before they
You
start.
got your nerves burned?
Yeah, well, I
Okay.
mean that's where all the pain was coming from. So they just go in there and burn them, acid burn, whatever they do. However they do it, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it did help a lot. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's good. Well, you look good, and I'm glad you're feeling good. Your family okay? Everybody
Yep,
okay overall?
everybody's doing good. I'm getting some another couple of grandkids coming here in the
Yeah.
next 3 or 4 months. So
Whoa.
it's and got some getting ready to go to college. So I got a big spread of them.
Listen, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Enjoy the Knoxville Nationals.
Well, I hope everybody enjoys the book. I know Dave's worked hard on it with me, and as you well know, I'm sort of hard to get pinned down myself.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But yeah, it's been enjoyable to come down and sort of relive your career. You know what I mean? It's not been near as painful as what I thought it was going to be.
How long did that book take to put together? You and him together? Was that
I
like a
wouldn't know
couple
how
years?
I wouldn't know how many hours he's got in it, but he's got quite a few in it just talking to me. So.
Yeah.
We've been working at it for at least over a year. You know what I mean, right now.
Yeah.
And he has a little trouble pinning me down too.
Yeah, I think everybody does. Yeah. Listen, thank you. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time.
All right, no problem.
You know, Steve Kinser was an idol of mine, you know.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe one human could do all he did and win all those races. Whatever it is, 700 plus World of Outlaw A mains. We're not talking about preliminary events or All-Star USAC. He won there too in the 20 World of Outlaw championships. Maybe I'm wrong. I know records are made to be broken, but I don't see those numbers ever being rivaled. Do you? I don't hang around that long, do they?
No, that'd be a hard number to beat. And I'm with you. He was my favorite driver growing up, and probably, truthfully, I mean, I don't know what young kid sprint car driver coming up wouldn't want to be like Steve Kinser.
And you know what? I know he raced the majority of his career with a wing overhead, but he was every bit as good without the wing. He won there a lot too,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it really didn't matter.
Yeah, well, that was one thing we talked about with this car. If he wanted to, have a wing put on it, but he wanted to keep it without the wing, which is cool.
Good for him.
And one thing I can tell you about meeting Steve Kinser, I've not maybe known him for about a year now.
Oh, you just got to know Steve?
Maybe 2 years.
2
but
years?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It hadn't been a long time, and he is, out of all the drivers that I've ever met, he is by far the most humble person I've ever met.
It's so funny you would say that.
And the greatest race car driver is the most humble.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Because when I went to interview him in his shop, I was so scared. I mean, I was shaking because I didn't know if he was going to bite my head off. I just didn't know,
Yeah.
I picture his dad chomping on that big cigar and wanting to take a swing or something, Not that was going to happen, but I got the same impression how courteous and kind and humble he was. He invited me into his home to see all his trophies, and I wasn't expecting that. He was so courteous, and it meant a lot to me to come from an icon like that. I mean, I think he's the greatest sprint car driver of all time. I don't think it'll ever be rivaled, but I guess that's a matter of opinion.
Yeah. I don't ever see it being broke, his record being broke. And by the way, when you said Bob having a cigar and taking a swing at you. Bob took a swing at me one night.
Did you have it coming?
I think it was just one of those
Racing deals.
racing accidents, and of all places for it to happen, it was at Bloomington. It was my very first feature win, and him and I got together, and yeah, he came over afterwards and took a swing at me, and we probably didn't talk for a long time, but you know,
Did
6
you guys?
months or a year after that,
Everything was okay.
yeah, always had a lot of respect for Bob, and yeah.
John, that's a huge source of pride. Bob Kinser took a swing at me.
Yeah.
It also connects you to a bygone era, you know.
Yeah. I actually have, but I still have my very first sprint car. I have all the photos from that night. I have the trophy from that night, the envelope that the money came in. So
That's so
there's
cool.
photos as we got together, and then after Bob was out of his car pointing at me, and yeah, so yeah, it was quite a night because we stopped to get our picture taken on the front stretch, and I've got that picture too. Everybody wants to know, why aren't you smiling? You just won your first race. And if they only knew what was in front of me, it was the fence and all the crowd yelling and screaming, profanity, throwing beer bottles. And then we get back to the pits and it's the same thing. And we actually had to have a police escort out of the racetrack that night.
Wow.